But yeah, I just had too many like bad experiences. Things had to be done. They fell by the wayside because I didn't remember. And I mean, it even expands to grocery lists and other things.
I refuse to say that it's an age thing, and that we're going to call denial. And it's me just leveraging technology
Okay.
to make my life better
Sure.
and easier,
Absolutely.
right?
Hey, it's episode 1011. I was wondering what your reaction was going to be. No, because we're bots.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do at least one binary episode number.
Mm-hmm. You did.
It sounded like a good idea when I thought of it.
Hey, you did it. You did it. And I heard it.
And he didn't laugh.
Well,
So, hey, at least he's honest.
it's just dad
I would
joke.
rather no laughter than fake laughter, for what it's worth.
That was a good one, Carl.
Thanks.
Did you spend all day writing that one?
No, Adam. I came up with it within the last 30 minutes, and I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Well,
But,
it's
actually, no, I didn't.
it's just dad joke. It's not.
Oh, it's total dad
Right?
joke. Yeah.
And dad jokes can be funny without really laughing at them.
Uh-huh.
The most appropriate accolade you can get for a dad joke is fuck off. Right? You're like, okay, that worked then. That worked.
So, in case you didn't catch that, I'm Carl.
I'm Adam.
Welcome back to episode 11 of Talkbots.
Talkbots.
Talkbots. Beep, boop, beep, boop.
Oh, yeah. Boop. Boop.
Oh, before I forget, for the 5 of you that are listening to this podcast, if you're liking what you're hearing and you like the sort of banter that Adam and I do with each other on the various topics that we choose, and there's a particular topic that you'd like to get our take on, leave us comments. Now,
Yes, please.
Now, I haven't quite figured out, I should have probably looked into this before we started this podcast and I made this suggestion.
Uh-huh.
If you're following us on YouTube, then leaving us comments is going to be super easy. I don't know how that manifests itself with the podcast distributed by all the other distributors. Like, can
You can't leave comments on it. You can leave reviews, but you can't leave comments per episode.
Right.
So what I've done, and I've never talked about it, and I guess it's a good time to do it, is
Yeah.
that I post it, I advertise our episodes on
Yes.
Facebook.
Yes.
But that's through my personal Facebook.
Right.
But I also have a Twitter account for Talkbots. That,
I did not know that.
well, there you go. But it is used so often, I don't recall the handle immediately. I think it's Talkbots Podcast. I don't fucking remember, but I'll find out, and there'll be a link to it.
If one were to search Twitter for Talkbots, they would probably find it.
I think there's one other thing. I think it's Talkbots singular.
Right.
But yeah, I think Talkbots is us. It might be Talkbots Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that's our email address too, Talkbots.
So,
Talkbots Podcast.
I mean, if you can't find our Twitter account, then you don't deserve to leave us a comment.
Yeah, right.
My personal opinion.
Right.
But,
Because I check it all the time.
or just go to YouTube and look for our podcast and leave comments on that.
Or just tell us personally because you know
Or
us
just
personally.
find out where we live and you can leave a note in our mailboxes. So today's episode, the topic is a rather serious one. Although Adam threatened to, throw some levity at it at one point or another. Today's episode is all about a very serious problem in our society, and it's the problem of homelessness.
Yep.
Adam, you want to?
It's a very serious problem in our society.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself.
This is a weird one.
It is.
Just because it's fucked up, really. I don't know how else to explain it. It's fucked up. It's getting worse. It's real bad. It's scary for those of us who aren't homeless, who have to, frankly, deal with homeless people and most of us have, excuse me, no idea how to. We're just like, we're observers of it, and it reminds us of how fragile our shit is, and it terrifies us, and we don't know how to deal with people who have mental health issues or substance abuse problems or whatever.
Yep.
So it's super fucked up, mostly because it's really hard to find an audience that finds it okay to laugh at them. But I'm gonna try.
Can you identify with homelessness in the sense that do you know people that are homeless, or have you ever met anyone that's homeless?
Met, I would say yes, but knew, I didn't know them. It was just probably more in my youth. I tried to go against that natural feeling that a lot of people have, especially us privileged folk, is looking at them as subhuman or just weird or different. So I endeavored to try to bridge that gap and converse with the person like they're a human being. But it was short-lived, and I didn't gain anything out of it, and certainly they didn't. But do I know anybody? No, I really don't. Yeah, this is a weird topic because I can talk about how I feel about it. I can talk about like statistics. I can talk about how it has affected my life. But it's dawning on me as I'm barfing out this noise out of my mouth is
how insulated you are?
Well, I don't know if I would use the word insulated, but just, it's almost like, who the fuck am I to even have a comment on this?
Right.
Like, I can't speak about the situation. I can't speak certainly for these people in any way, shape, or form. Over this last week, I have done quite a bit of reading about the situations in different cities and different countries and different continents and how they deal with it and stuff like that. And like, that's all very interesting. But it dawns on me again now that it just seems so rude to find this interesting, almost.
Right.
Right? Like, it's just
embarrassing.
Almost. Because it's happened a couple times on this podcast where I generally live my life up my own ass and just doing what I do the way I do it, like most people do.
Right.
But it has happened a few times on this podcast where my privilege has slapped me in the face. When I suggested this topic, I was like, shit, it's a scary topic. There's a lot to talk about. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
But like I say, again, just as I'm talking now, I'm like, who the fuck am I to
broach the subject?
Broach the subject. That's an excellent way of putting it. Like, because frankly, they terrify me. Homeless people scare the shit out of me.
Right.
And I'm going to do my best to be real honest and not try to act like someone that, has a lot of compassion for it. Because I have compassion for it, but certainly from as far down the fucking street as I can get. Because I don't understand it. Frankly, I can't fathom the situation, and that's what's so fucked up. Like, I understand the mechanics of homelessness. Like, I understand what it means to be homeless from a intellectual perspective.
Yeah.
But that isn't even including the mental health or substance abuse things, parts of it. Because those are most certainly terrifying.
Yeah.
Right? But just the fact that you have no home is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And it scares me because none of us are really very far from that. Some of us are further from that devastation.
There are a scary number of people in Canada, can't speak for the rest of the world. I'm sure America is similar. I forget what the statistic was, but it was at least 40%, I think, of Canadians were within 2 paychecks of not being able to pay their obligations, their debts, their bills, putting food on the table, paying rent, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is super scary.
That's super scary, man.
It means that there are a significant number of people who are, a job loss away from being one of those people. Potentially.
Of course, potentially. Yeah. No, I hear you. And this pandemic has really been very awful for that because
Yeah, a lot of people lost their jobs.
a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of people became homeless.
Yeah.
And that's just plain scary. Just plain scary for anybody who's listening to this. If that kind of shit doesn't fuck you up, then I don't know. There's something about poverty that I've always found really weird with talking to people. Whenever you talk to somebody about their childhood, unless they come from ridiculous affluence,
Mm-hmm.
everybody says they grew up poor.
Right.
Right? Everybody says they grew up poor.
Right.
Really, the fact is how many of those people grew up poor? Probably none of them. Like, we all have this notion of what poor is,
Mm-hmm.
but we have no fucking idea what poor really is. Now, that's not to say there are none of them who didn't grow up poor, but everybody says that they did.
Well,
It's such an interesting thing.
Yeah, if we're gonna, and circling back to something we said maybe on another podcast, or we just shared this information with ourselves, I don't remember whether this actually made it into a podcast episode or not, but you and I both agreed that one of the things that marks a person as wealthy or successful or not poor is somebody who can go to the grocery store and pretty much buy what they want.
Right.
If poor or not well off could be defined as someone who can't buy whatever they want at the grocery store, and there are varying degrees of that. There are people who get to buy some of the stuff they want and have to forego other things. There's some people that basically just have to get, what they can make fit within their budget for food, which turns out not to be a lot. I think that's a good yardstick for it. Although when I grew up, we had a roof over our heads and the bills always got paid, to the best of my knowledge. We were not eating T-bone steaks.
Right.
We had minute steaks. That was the best steak that our house ever had. But, I can't tell you whether that was because the money was spent on other things or just because we couldn't afford anything like steak.
Yeah.
Because we certainly weren't hungry. We just weren't eating well.
Right. Yeah. And we have talked about that anecdote about what rich means from a grocery store perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that that's not actually what people think rich or poor means.
No.
I don't think, right?
No.
Like, the measure is and I don't think to anybody's real fault, but like what you said is like, we were never hungry. The bills got paid. You fucking were not poor.
Right.
Right? And I think people, and myself included, I've said it out of my mouth before, that we didn't have a lot of money. We have this notion that we're supposed to be rich, so if we're not rich, we are poor. I don't think anybody I know really has a real good concept of what being poor is. And it comes back to, like, the ignorance of dealing with people who are dealing with poverty or in poverty, is that there's very little empathy because nobody gets it. Like, there's sympathy. I'm like, oh, that sucks. You got to go to the food bank, or you have to pick your phone bill, or eating. But those are such abstract, nebulous concepts to most people that it's so hard to truly empathize with it. Which is a fucking shame, of course, because people really have to make those choices. And if you just stop and think for a little while, just take a couple minutes out of your life, which I tend to do now more as a father, and especially as a guy who doesn't have a job right now. And then people have the fucking audacity to get upset when they see a homeless person with like a fucking cell phone.
Right.
No, they made choices. They've made choices.
Yeah.
You can't afford rent, but they can afford $30 a month for a phone, which might be their job, Because that's a fucking thing too, is
Yeah.
that people who are homeless, a lot of people, I'm using this really general term as people, think that they don't have jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so fucking sad that it's not true.
Well, I mean, the homeless shelter in downtown Calgary, a significant number of the people who stay there have jobs. They're classified as the working poor. They have jobs, they go to work every day, but they just don't make enough money to afford their own place. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation.
Man.
And I'm like you. Had it not been for some brushes with homeless people that I had earlier in my life, I would be just as ignorant of what it is and why it exists. And, you know, I was probably of the opinion when I was younger myself as well that, you know, homeless people must just be lazy or they've given up or whatever. You know, why don't they just, you know, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and get a job and improve their lot in life? And of course, now I know better. But it took actually meeting a homeless person and getting to know them a little bit before I truly understood what's really going on. Growing up, I didn't have any exposure to homeless people because I grew up in the suburbs of Montreal. And even though homelessness might have existed in the 70s, it definitely wasn't the problem that it is now. And it would have been localized to the downtown cores of cities if it existed at all. And one of the things that I remember about growing up in that suburb, because it was such a small city, such a small town, and because the neighborhoods back then were designed not like they are today, where, you know, when you're staring at someone's house from the street, all you see is a fucking massive garage door and a door and a side window, and that's it. And we've kind of built these neighborhoods where neighbors don't even see each other. The neighborhood that I grew up with wasn't like that at all. And because it was so small and so close-knit, everybody knew everybody else. Maybe not personally, but we knew about them and we knew them enough that we knew what their overall situation was. You know, if you were to stand me in the middle of my street as a 12-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid and said to me, point out the people on your street who aren't doing very well, I would have been able to go, them, 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 them. Who are the people on your street that are well off, that are, you know, having a good life? Them, 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 them. Because everybody knew what was going on in the community had the resources to help those people without even being asked.
Right.
The churches helped. One of the churches in our town had like a little H hut or whatever in the middle of town that was called the Emergency Center, and it collected donations just like a Goodwill, but unlike a profit-making company, this place actually collected the things that they had donated to give to people who needed the stuff.
Right.
So kids' toys were given to families who couldn't afford to buy toys at the moment. Whether that was a permanent situation or not didn't matter. The point was the community looked after its own because the community knew who was in what circumstance. And that doesn't exist anymore. And I don't know what it's like living in a rural community in Alberta or in any other province in Canada. In the city we live in, for sure, that kind of familiarity is rare, if not non-existent.
Right. Yep.
So what that does, unfortunately, in my humble opinion, is it insulates us from what our community members are going through.
Yep.
I couldn't tell you what people in Montgomery, the community that I live in, aren't doing so well. I'm familiar with the neighbors that are 3 or 4 doors removed from me because we happen to be uncharacteristically friendly and close. But that's a rare thing in a city of this size. But it also means that if the neighbors within 2 or 3 doors of where I live are in trouble, we would know about it,
Right.
you know? And as a result, we would be able to do something about it. But it's that lack of familiarity, that lack of awareness that helps us to not have to deal with it and not have to care about it, not have to understand it, because we're not exposed to it on a daily basis.
Right.
We are lucky in Canada, based on what I've been reading is going on in the States. San Diego is having a really bad problem, and they are certainly not the only city in the US with this problem. But there's a neighborhood in downtown San Diego called the Gaslamp Quarter. And the Gaslamp Quarter right now is a tent city.
Yep.
The sidewalks are a tent city.
Yep.
So any poor schmuck tourist who booked a hotel in the Gaslamp Quarter thinking they were going to be like, you know, kind of like a fake wannabe New Orleans part of San Diego fun time vacation are in for a rude awakening when they check into their hotel, because it's a shit show. There's like porta potties all over the place, and what landscape isn't covered by porta potties is covered by tents.
Right.
And it's like that in many cities throughout the United States. Portland, Oregon, any city-owned non-residential green space that isn't a park, like the side of a street that doesn't have any houses on it because it's bordering like on train tracks or whatever, tent city. So it's crazy, and it's driving residents nuts. They don't like it, and who can blame them, right? I wouldn't want to get up in the morning, look out my front window to a bunch of people who don't have jobs just surviving just outside my door. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing part of the reason that they don't like looking at that every day is because they probably feel guilty. Here they are in their nice, cozy, warm home with electricity.
Right.
And right across the street from them is some poor schmuck and their dog and their girlfriend or whatever living in a bloody tent, having to scrounge for food.
My experience with homelessness that affected me the most was when my wife and I lived in Victoria.
Mm.
And Victoria is
a place where a lot of homeless people go to.
It's fucking paradise.
Yeah.
Right? From a
just
weather
like
perspective. And the government is very left-leaning.
Right.
So it's... I don't want to dare say that it's a great place to go, because looking at the living conditions, it certainly is not. It's
but
it's bad.
Let's face it, it's better to be a homeless person in Victoria than
Winnipeg.
Yeah,
right. Like, I tried really hard to not be the not in my backyard kind of person. Right? And it wasn't out of guilt that made me upset. Like, it was the... I'm not sure which one weighs more, but the crime.
Yeah.
We had shit stolen out of our yard. We had people just wandering through our yard. Graffiti, vandalism, littering. Littering was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And drug use.
Right.
So the thing that... I don't want to say that it tipped the scale to make us move back to Calgary, but it definitely has weight in that decision, was that I was on a walk with my daughter, who was 15, 16 months at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were walking past, there was a pathway behind our house. There's a huge park behind it. And she was wandering through the bushes, and I was watching her, and I had to scream at her to stop because there were a pile of needles.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's obviously a huge problem, and I can't fix it, so I'm going to do the only thing that I can do.
Run away
is
from it.
Leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the guilt part, well, I don't know if there's a guilt part. There's a pissed off part, but it's easy for me to be pissed off, is that in Victoria there was a tent city.
Mm-hmm.
And it was downtown, and it was a big square space, and it was just crammed. that in itself has led to a great deal of problems, lots of crime, lots of violence.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cops came in and busted it up.
Right.
Which, okay, well, now they're not downtown, but
That's
then they
right.
fucking scatter.
Right.
Right? Now they have to go. It's not like they all of a sudden don't sleep.
Right.
So they got to go somewhere else. So then there are pockets all over the city
Mm-hmm.
until then, again, they all coalesce in one area. And that one area was rather close to our house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the crime went up and the drugs and the stuff like that. I was torn because get the fuck away from my family. But what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah.
So it's not that I felt guilty. I felt kind of rock in a hard place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are these people going to do? We got huge problems. We have no affordable housing. We got governments that don't give a flying fuck about affordable housing,
Mm-hmm.
which would change everything.
Yes.
So then they've all but made it illegal to be poor. So they bust these people up and make them leave, and like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So rock in a hard place. I didn't know what to do. But I'm always going to land on the get the fuck out of my yard.
Yeah.
Right? Don't touch my stuff. Don't go near my family.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it lands where I was talking before is the homeless part is scary. And the part we as in, I guess the royal we, really don't know how to deal with is like the substance abuse. I had read that 2/3 of homeless people, and this was asked of that community, 2/3 alcohol or hard drugs were the major contributor to them becoming homeless.
Right.
And then once you are homeless, it's not like you're
There
all
are
of a sudden not
programs.
addicted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then because of the horrible living conditions, it's going to make people turn to drugs. So the numbers go higher. And I just didn't know how to deal with it. And it was just, it's scary watching people just fucked up on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Either just laying on the road all disheveled and hanging halfway off a curb, or screaming at the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
or accosting you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what to do.
There was a guy literally dancing in the middle of Shaganappi Trail
Yeah.
on one of our drives home from wherever we were. And it kind of weirded us out because, like, again, homelessness in Calgary tends to be mostly downtown. What isn't downtown is typically along the riverbed.
Yep.
And what isn't along the riverbed is in places where you can find quick shelter. Like, believe it or not, there is actually I don't know if he's still there, but there was a homeless guy who had basically set up a little camp for himself just at the very edge of our neighborhood, amongst a clump of trees.
Oh, okay.
He had managed to secure a tent, and the tent was permanently set up there, and that's where he was living. And then the other extreme, the people who do get drunk or high or both, and are just kind of like aimlessly wandering neighborhoods and end up passing out on your front lawn or on the lawn next door or whatever until somebody calls the cops and complains about it, and then they get hauled away or whatever, or they eventually sober up and leave on their own accord. That became a problem in our neighborhood a couple of times over a few summers.
Right.
Because of our proximity to the river. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever meet that guy, and I wish I could remember his name. Did you ever meet that guy who eventually came to ABIS, that school that you were at when I met you, where I was teaching at? Did you ever hear the story about him?
Yes.
But anyway, this guy, he was homeless and he was basically surviving on couch surfing, and he sold a community newspaper that he made himself. He was a bit of a conspiracy theorist, so he kind of had sort of, kind of on the edge kind of way of looking at the world.
Fringy.
Very fringy. But not so fringy that he was unsociable. the way he kind of came into the circle of influence of the school that I was teaching at was that he would come into the office and ask if he could make copies of the paper that he wrote as a donation to his cause. And the guy who was running the school eventually asked him, what his story was. And after he got his story that he used to be in real estate in the 80s, and then the crash came, and he lost everything that he owned, and he's been homeless ever since. The guy who was running the school saw potential in him because it looked like it appeared that this guy was definitely not a loser or a useless, a hopeless case. So he offered them the opportunity to go through this IT retraining program that everybody else was getting paid for by the government. And the guy running the school said, "Why don't you come and take this program on me?"
Right.
And the homeless guy said that would be great, but I don't have a computer to practice anything on, and I don't have a home. Like, I'm couch surfing, and I don't really think I'm going to be able to do much in the way of studying, couch surfing or staying at the homeless shelter. So the guy put him up in a apartment across the street from the school while he was going to school. And he did great. He actually did great in school. He wasn't the top guy in his class, but he was close. And he definitely proved to everybody that he had what it took to start a new life again. But then he did his practicum, and at the end of his practicum, he asked if he could have a job, and they said no. And that's all it took. One no. And he then went right back to the same mental trap that had been preventing him from trying to make a better situation for himself all the way up to that point. He fell right back into that pattern by exclaiming to everyone, "See, even though I'm qualified to do a job, they don't want to hire me." And people desperately tried to argue with him, "Yeah, but you only asked once. You can't make the decision to quit after just one no."
Right.
And he, had convinced himself that no, it was over, and that's it. And that's what really made me understand that I personally believe, based on the things that I've read, and now this guy that I got to witness, be given a second chance at life and then still go back to being homeless again. I finally came to the understanding that a lot of people are homeless because there's something wrong with their brain.
Right.
Whether it's full-blown mental handicap or some kind of mental block, right, bias, illness, phobia, call it what you will, preventing them from being motivated to try to get themselves out of the situation that they're in, and dulling the pain with drugs and alcohol. And unless they get help, and you can't get these kinds of people help without money, without, it being paid for, lock, stock, and barrel, they're never going to get out of that situation. Because it's a trap. And that's all I got to say about that. Any ideas on what we can do to solve it? If you could wave a magic wand, what do you think society, governments could or should do to try to eliminate it?
Provide housing to people as a human right.
Yeah.
Unconditionally.
Yeah.
You can't afford your home? Well, we as a country are going to make sure you have somewhere to live.
Right.
And time again, it is shown that when you give someone a home,
you give them dignity.
You give them dignity. And things, not always,
no.
Of course,
it doesn't
not
always work.
Nothing always works.
But it mostly works.
But it often, I can't say if it mostly works, but it often works, right? So, like,
Well, they proved it with veterans in this area.
oh yeah,
They built a neighborhood of tiny homes
sure,
and invited a bunch of veterans who were homeless. Hey, come live here amongst your own.
right.
And we'll help you out and get you some counseling and try to get you some work, and you don't have to pay rent. You don't have to worry about rent or anything like that. It's like, this is your home now.
Yeah,
And the feedback that they got from these people
right.
was just, it changed their life.
Of course.
It changed their outlook on life.
It's amazing how well people respond when you treat them like a human being.
No kidding.
It's crazy. In Finland, which is the gold standard,
Yes.
they have a program called the Y program.
Yes.
That is that.
Yeah.
Is homes are provided unconditionally.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be it, but nobody wants to be it because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Right? People, governments, fucking citizens are unwilling to spend that kind of money on somebody else's problem.
True.
Which is
In North American society, anyway.
but in most of Europe too. Like it's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about us who have look at the have-nots and say fuck off to the have-nots. But it's like a thing that happens almost globally.
Mm-hmm. I think part of the problem, never mind, there are a lot more people exercising their selfishness overtly rather than keeping it to themselves and trying to be nice to their fellow human being. Much of the problem, I think, stems from lack of understanding and lack of awareness.
Yeah.
You don't truly understand what it's like to be homeless until you are it.
And can you fix it? I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I don't know if you can either.
I really don't. I
think
don't think you can.
You can maybe lead people. I think part of the problem is that none of the leaders in our society are setting a good example in that regard either. I mean,
Sure.
the last person that I respected for their empathy toward their fellow human was Jack Layton.
Right.
And he, like, if you said, name me one other Canadian politician who you admire as much as Jack Layton, I'd have to go, none. There was just one guy.
Right.
One guy. Out of the thousands of politicians that have served our country, he was the only one that stood out in my mind as someone who cared or demonstrated a care and empathy for his fellow human being.
Right.
And amassed quite a following
We did.
in, trying to live that same standard,
Right.
follow that leader. And we don't have anything like that anymore.
And it's infectious. I think if
It
you could
is.
find someone who, who's charismatic,
like a
who
Jesus
is-
figure
right?
that can say, hey, it's time to smarten up and be.
Wash those fuckers' feet. Get it
Yeah,
together, man.
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Leadership is required, is
Right.
what it is. Leadership. Somebody who cares, demonstrates it on a daily basis, lobbies incessantly to get people to come around and also give a crap about their fellow human being. And then once you have a critical mass of those people, then you can start saying, okay,
well, then you start changing policies.
that's
and
right.
Shit like that.
Yeah. Then you start convincing them you can afford to pay a little bit more to help to build the kind of safety net the whole society needs. Because the thing that struck me the most about every documentary that I have ever watched that compared North American society to Nordic European society was simply this. When they asked North Americans, what do you worry about?
Right.
Their universal worries were things they shouldn't have to worry about. I'm worried I'll lose my job. I'm worried I won't graduate school. I'm worried my kids won't afford school. I'm worried my mother's going to get cancer. I'm worried I'm going to get cancer. I'm worried I'm going to get sick and I won't be able to afford what I need to fix it. And, all these worries that are universal in North American society. And then when you turn around and you go and ask the Nordic residents, what do you worry about? They're worrying about things that would seem minuscule to us. I'm worried about whether I'm going to get to see my granddaughter this weekend.
Yeah.
They don't have the same concerns we do,
Right.
because their government does such a fantastic job looking after them.
Right.
When your wife gets pregnant, you get a gift, a starter kit for your kid.
Right.
When you need to take time off to look after your kid for the first couple years of your life, you get to do it, paid.
Yep.
And it's not just the mom that gets to do it either. The dad can do it too.
Right.
It's equally available to both sides. It's just one thing after another.
If I could add this, just about that having a kid thing.
Yeah.
In BC, when we had our kid,
Yeah.
we were given stuff.
Oh,
like a baby startup kit.
No kidding.
Yeah, we
Didn't even know that was a thing in Canada.
I don't think it is in Canada. I think it's
Just
in BC.
Wow.
And I don't think it was long term, but regardless,
Right.
like it happened. We got stuff
Yep.
that we used for a long time. In fact, that little, because it's a box, right? It's literally a cardboard box with a little mattress in it, which is the same thing they gave out in Europe, and it's after that model, and it's great. Like
It helps a lot.
We used it for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, we used it for a period of time
Yeah.
anyway. And with the mat leave is that my wife took off 6 months and I took off 6 months. We got a year of paid time off.
Yeah.
With our child.
Right.
Which is
Amazing.
amazing.
And
Absolutely amazing.
should be
Yeah.
mandatory.
Yeah.
Why should just a few people get that?
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So I guess we've almost come full circle, because you know what the next words out of my mouth were going to be. Universal basic income.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go again.
Sure.
We've come full circle.
Yeah.
It's right back to we need to rebuild a society that cares and looks after its own.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not going to happen until we have the leadership that shows that it is not only possible, it's necessary.
How do we stop?
Like,
And I guess I
I
don't.
wish we had more Bernie Sanders in the world. Is
Yeah,
what I'm
no
trying
shit,
to say.
right? Well, why? They won't fucking vote him in.
Well, yeah,
Fucking
not enough
idiots.
people will vote him in, unfortunately.
Um,
But he keeps harping on the same true facts over and
Sure
over,
does.
which is that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep falling farther and farther and farther behind.
Yep.
Like how a person who is near or visiting the general area of the poverty line manages to survive in this world is beyond me. When a house costs, the average house costs $500,000 and rent is minimum $1,200 to $1,300 a month. I just don't understand how people do it.
I was trying to find out, and it's not something you can just, Google while you're taking a poop, because it's a long, scary story. Is like, how do you, like, what has been the cause of the astronomical jump of homelessness in our society? Now, our society, I'm going to blend both Canada and the United States together because we both had an explosion. United States has had more, but I don't know if that's just per capita.
Right.
But regardless,
Yeah.
what has caused this explosion, and how do you stop it? How do you stop this flow? Because there's no signs of it slowing down. No new policies have come into place to help stop it.
No.
Are people just hoping that it's going to slow down? Well, fucking inflation keeps going up. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
Like, what are the causes and how do you stop them? That's the most rhetorical question. It's scary. It's I've used that word so often, but it's just so scary. Yeah, it's just getting worse and worse all the time. It's no way for human beings to live. And I don't know what to do about it. Like, what do I do about it as someone who is a have? I'm not a have-not, I am a have.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I do about it? You know, people say, well, you can donate your money or you can donate your time. All admirable actions. But a drop in the largest bucket.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But what can I do? What can we do? Like, there's notions of going to volunteer at the homeless shelter or things of that nature, which is important.
But even
people
that,
gotta eat. But like,
yeah, I don't know.
how do
but
you
even
stop
that is,
the problem?
Even that is a drop in the bucket because I mean, and I'm not trying to be. Well, maybe I am trying to be pessimistic about it. Just because you're volunteering on the food line to help feed homeless people that are staying at the shelter or getting fed at the shelter isn't going to make you understand homelessness. It's just going to bring you a little bit closer to it. You're not going to know what their story is. You're not going to understand how they got there. You're not going to understand what keeps them there. I mean, the guy that I met that eventually came to school and took that whole program over 7 months, he was a homeless guy that refused to stay at the shelter because he was a homeless person that was afraid of regular homeless people. He only felt comfortable couch surfing because at least then he knew he was going to wake up in the morning and still have his stuff. Right? He didn't trust that he would be able to stay in a homeless shelter and not have his stuff stolen. So yeah, like I mean, as amazing as it is, as honorable as it is, and as empathetic as it is for people to volunteer their time to help with homelessness, I do believe that it's just a drop in the bucket and it's not actually solving anything. The donations are great too, the financial donations, but the financial donations only seem to be finding their way to maintaining existing shelters. They're not building any more shelters. And not only that, but remember what happened when they tried to convert an old hotel that had ceased functioning and turn it into a drop-in center? All the neighbors in that neighborhood said, I don't freaking think so. Not in my neighborhood, you're not.
Right.
Because we don't want druggies and criminals. And, you know, they were already finished stereotyping these people as people I don't want roaming around my neighborhood.
Okay, so this is the problem with the not in my backyard mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I hate it, but I get it.
Oh yeah, it's
right?
Totally understandable.
Like, because so the statement of like they've already stereotyped these people.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that crime does go up. Drug use and other nefarious activities do go up.
Right.
So,
but not to the extent that everybody would think. Case in point, if you went to every person who lived in my neighborhood right now and said, hey, we're thinking of setting up a halfway house, what do you think?
Right.
Everyone would say, no frickin' way. Well, guess what? There's a halfway house not 5 doors from here.
Right.
You wouldn't even know it.
Sure. I guess what I was getting at is the comparison. Well, not the comparison. Is the notion of a hotel being changed. There's one thing that it's a halfway house. Mm. It's got like 5 or 7 dudes in it, or women. Mm-hmm. But a hotel is going to have potentially hundreds.
Hundreds. Yeah.
There's going to be an effect on the community.
Sure.
Like there is.
But is it going to be as bad as everybody thinks it is?
Don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
You just don't.
The problem is, and that's where the not in my backyard comes from,
Right.
is that I don't think people go, it's going to be this. Like, they might worst case it in their head,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the risk is what they're worried about.
Sure.
Like, what could happen,
Right.
not what I think is going to happen.
But like, what's worse?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the
Having
problem.
them in that place, or having them wandering the streets and maybe ending up across the street from your front yard.
Yeah, but that's the problem with the not in my backyard people, is that they live in neighborhoods where they're not sleeping on your lawn.
Not yet.
Right? Well, of course. Right?
But the way we're going,
Sure.
it might not be long before they do.
Right.
Because, there's only so many
Maybe that's
places.
what you need. Maybe you need to hit critical mass.
Maybe.
Right? And you're
Maybe.
like, oh, maybe these people
When
do
it's
need
in
a place to
everybody's
live.
face,
Right.
then maybe finally people start getting it.
But I doubt that'll be the case.
No.
Like, that's a
probably not.
really optimistic way of looking at it. They'll just do what fucking Hungary did. Hungary made it constitutionally illegal to be homeless.
Right. Thinking that would solve the problem.
And what they do is that if you're sleeping on the street, they will arrest you and they will force you into doing like work, like community service sort of thing.
Right.
Or you can pay a fine. If you refuse the work and you can't, or you can't pay the fine, you go to jail.
Right.
Like, it's so short-sighted. Well, now you're paying for fucking high-income housing.
Yes.
Fucking jail's really expensive.
Yeah.
Just
Just build some hoses already.
Yeah. Christ's sake. Maybe that's what we're supposed to do. Maybe that's what we're supposed to do. Is we sit here and we talk about, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Is that we're both intelligent, capable people. Maybe we are the ones that should be advocating for them to build a fucking apartment building. Maybe that should be what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what our life work should be, is making other people's lives better.
Right.
But who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
It's such a weird space to be in. Like, 'cause, fuck, I would love to...
Maybe we'll start a lottery, and the proceeds from the lottery build affordable housing.
Yeah, man, a fucking 50-50.
For homeless people.
Yeah, dude.
Because I couldn't tell you where the money from our existing lotteries go.
No, I'm not sure where it goes.
I know originally they were intended to, support sports and, various charities and charitable foundations, but there's no transparency to where the money's actually going.
It's probably
Just like there's no
basic.
transparency with organizations like
United Way.
United Way is the one I was thinking of, where people were making a lot of, they were soliciting a lot of money from a lot of people, and they couldn't tell you exactly who was getting that money. So, yeah, if we're going to start a lottery to help homeless people, we're going to have to make sure that we're not like driving Ferraris.
Not in this country.
Because that wouldn't look good.
Right. We could be like the lady that runs BLM, who bought that big
So,
house.
Mr. Plez, you're running the lottery that helps build homes for homeless people. Yep, that's right. Is this your house here on the top of Capitol Hill? This $2.5 million mansion? No, not my house.
Get off my lawn!
Yeah, get off my lawn. Hey, you're standing on my grass. Get out of here.
I wish homeless people were more like hobos. Like you saw like on TV in the cartoons where they had a bindle and they fucking rode the rails. That'd be way better. Now they just live in fucking shitty Coleman tents downtown and scream at you about, I don't know, laser beams or...
But, and for what it's worth, I understand the fear. Because if you feel that way just in general about those people, then you have no empathy toward them.
No,
You don't have
fear.
enough empathy toward them to help them.
No, it's a us versus them.
That's right.
Right. And the more homeless people that show up, the scarier it becomes, because now there's more of them.
That's right.
The less empathetic you're going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the problem's just not getting solved, and it's getting worse. And like I said, we need leadership to do something about it, with a mind to, even if we have to shame people into realizing, listen, unless we all get together and do something about this, it's only going to get worse. And God help you if you become one of those people, because that's the only way you're going to truly understand why it's such a shitty situation that we have to do something about.
I have an overwhelming sense of helplessness right now.
Right.
And it doesn't feel very good.
No.
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 It's an interesting emotional response that I'm feeling right now. Because all I want to do is end the episode.
Right.
All I want to do is stop talking about it.
Right.
Because what do you do?
Right.
What do you talk about? Like, what do you do? How do you fix it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of thinking about how they live, and it's a weird sensation to be aware of.
Yeah.
That like that's how I'm responding. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, that was an episode, I guess, and okay, next time we're talking about fucking baloney and how great it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. And then how do you segue into another topic after you're done talking about this topic? In case you were wondering, we're done talking about homeless now. So, what else is new? And now the uncomfortable segue to a topic. What do you talk about after you've been talking about homeless people?
my heating bill sure is big.
Yeah, no shit.
What is new?
What is new?
What am I? We haven't talked about books or movies or music in a few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We've been. I don't know why we hadn't. Last episode.
Yeah, last episode it was
about
all
us.
about it was all about us.
I'm still reading Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trudging away. Almost done book 5. I'm still reading a book in between every other book, and I actually, between book 4 and book 5, I read The Terminal Man by Michael Crichton.
Mm.
It was a very interesting book. Short. One of his early books, and it was really very interesting. It's about a guy who had schizophrenia,
Yeah.
and these doctors had developed a brain probe that went into your brain and had a bunch of wires that touched parts of the brain, and whenever a seizure was coming on, this device would recognize the seizure and then trigger an electrical impulse or whatever to subdue it from actually coming to fruition, so you didn't have a seizure. And then things go sideways,
As they always do.
as they must in a book,
That's right.
and they did. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's very short. It's only like 250, 300 pages or something. Yeah, I recommend it. It was a fun little read. It was cool.
Michael Crichton writes some pretty amazing stories about science and the human condition.
Even the dinosaur condition.
Yeah.
I had read Jurassic Park for the first time in my life a number of weeks ago. But it was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a great book.
My first book of his was the same one that you read the last time.
Andromeda Strain?
Yeah, Andromeda Strain. Oh my God.
That was my first book. As well.
That was amazing. I really, really enjoyed that book.
Because it was so simple.
Yeah.
Wasn't very flashy.
No.
We're used to reading books with some huge climax or some huge devastation or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was different.
Oh, yeah.
And I really liked it. And I don't think I'll read the sequels because I think there's probably a hunger that was missed from like modern audiences.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's trying to fill a gap.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same idea with Lost World the sequel to Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good book.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically Jurassic Park, but way more dinosaurs.
Right.
Like way more focused on the dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a sequel. It was almost like a rewrite of Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, this is what people wanted. More of these fucking things. So that's why I'm a little nervous about reading any sequels to the Andromeda Strain. But
Are there sequels?
there are 2.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a series of 3 books.
Oh.
Yeah, the last one isn't written by him,
Okay.
but the second one is.
What's the name of the book? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh,
I can
okay.
find out though.
I thought up a funny idea for a sketch, and I think it's probably even has more potential than just being a funny sketch on an improv stage. But I had this idea of, at some point in the very near future, there will be a device, a wearable device, or it may not even need to be wearable, that is like Google Home or what's Amazon's
Alexa.
one? Alexa, but on steroids. An entity,
What do you want?
a resource that basically is your 24-hour personal assistant that is aware of what's going on, what you're talking about, what you're doing, where you're going, where you are, what you're doing, what you're planning, and is assisting you and talking you through everything along the way. To the point where when you wake up in the morning, it's telling you what's going on in your day. And
Good morning, Carl. You have to pee.
yeah,
Oh, right,
or
thanks.
whatever, reminding you that you're almost out of vector cereal or whatever the case may be. And, it's not hard to imagine a technology that can provide that kind of constant, helpful interaction. But the comedic aspect of it that I imagined about it was, in its infancy, it would be missing a lot of context. So while the resource would be very knowledgeable and try to be very helpful,
Yeah.
because it was lacking social context, it would in many cases be too helpful. Like if you were on a date and you're trying to impress your date and you said something that wasn't entirely true, your assistant could,
Actually.
interrupt the conversation and say, well, actually, Carl, that's not entirely true. You actually, fucked
Yeah.
the dog while you were at your last job, and that's why you were let go.
Right.
Yeah, so I just
You
kind of
cheated when you measured last.
yeah,
It's only
exactly.
6.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of imagined this situation where this person would be interacting with a bunch of different people, their boss, their girlfriend, whatever, their siblings, their friends, and no matter what, this digital assistant just constantly got in the way and just like fucking spoiled everything that this person was trying to do or say with with facts,
Sure.
things that are totally right and totally true, but at absolutely the worst possible time. Like, excusing yourself from your friends or whatever. It's like, well, gotta go, got a meeting in half an hour. No, you don't. Your day is fully free. You have absolutely nothing planned until 2 days from now. Shut the fuck up. Well, Carl, I notice you're not scratching your crotchal area as much as you were 2 hours ago. That
Fungal cream.
fungal cream must be working great. Would you like me to order more for you? Shut the fuck up.
Yes, too. Vector cereal.
Sure.
That's what you eat.
From time to time, yeah.
Wow.
That's usually my go-to cereal these days.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't had it very often.
No.
No, being celiac, I tried it I think once,
Right.
when I wasn't paying attention to the disease, and it was fucking delicious.
Right.
It was really good.
But then you suffered.
But then I was just like, no, I didn't suffer.
Oh.
I think it was right before I was like, get your shit together. One of those moments. But really, Vector cereal.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, you know how like most people will eat cereal in a regular sized bowl?
Okay.
Like, you know, I'm referring now to the serving size.
Sure. Okay.
I can't eat that much cereal.
Oh, really?
I find it too much.
Okay.
So, believe it or not, I have a bowl. It's literally smaller than this mug.
Really?
Yep. I think it's meant basically to be like a salsa bowl that you'd put on a table to dip chips into or whatever. It is literally not wider than the widest part of this mug, but it's only about this tall. I make my cereal in that because I find that it's just enough so that I'm not hungry anymore, and I don't feel like I'm like overdoing it.
We are different people, Carl.
It's like eating half a sandwich.
We are fucking
Being
different
satiated.
people. I try to find the largest bowl in my home.
Oh, wow.
And put all of the cereal in it.
Like half the box.
Yes, like half the box. Except for the like half the box
Right.
and literally half the box. Cereal is the greatest meal.
Right. You really like it, eh?
Oh.
What's your go-to?
Fuck. Well.
Okay. What's your dream cereal and what can you actually eat?
It would have been. So it's a three-way tie of the cereals I cannot eat anymore, which would be Fruit Loops, Cap'n Crunch, and Corn Pops.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it.
Right.
This is my story.
That's right.
Those are... Oh, fuck. You know what? I'm going to cut Corn Pops, because I don't like your fucking attitude about it. And put in Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
See, I saved you.
You didn't save me. I'm okay.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch better than Corn Pops.
Oh, man. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Holy shit. That
Never had
is...
them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Fuck Vector. Toss it. Get yourself some Cinnamon Toast Crunch and live the good life. They're type 2 diabetic. You'll be fucking dead by morning. You won't be able to feel your feet.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
And I think it's probably a general consensus with people who are over the age of 6, which is the best time to eat cereal is at night. It is the greatest evening snack meal ever.
Dry or with milk?
Oh, with milk.
Okay.
I'm not a goddamn animal.
Never had cereal at night.
Oh, Carl.
I know.
Oh, I am here to open your eyes.
Okay.
I
guess I'm trying it.
Holy shit. Yeah.
But see, I don't know. I mean, I've been really desperately trying to cut my snacking in the evening down.
Okay.
I'm afraid of what trying cereal as a nighttime snack would do to me.
I'm not sure if I've ever told you this before, but in many circles, my name is The Enabler. So...
Just do it.
Try cereal,
Just
Carl.
do it. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
So, okay, so those are the three you can't eat anymore. What are you, I hate to say stuck with, but what are you stuck with now?
There is a gluten-free cereal. There's 2 gluten-free cereals that I really enjoy, but I don't eat them very often just because of a diabetic perspective. It's just all the carbs. There is one that is like Corn Pops, which is great, and the other one is like Honey Nut Cornflakes.
Oh.
And also delicious. So Honey Nut Cornflake stuff, almond milk, and like spoonfuls of Splenda. It's got to be the sweetest thing of all time.
If I could eat any cereal, unfortunately, my favorite cereal isn't sold in Canada. I was introduced to it in the United States when I would visit there in the summers as a kid, and I love it.
Oh, I hope. What is it?
Wheaties.
Oh my God, you are the squarest box I've ever met.
Hey, what can I
Wheaties,
say? Yeah,
really?
they taste delicious
Whew.
for a non-sugary cereal.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
But
well, non-sugary, not coated with sugar on the outside
sure.
in a glossy fashion, like many cereals are. But yeah, I really liked the flavor of it and the texture of it. It was nice and gluteny. I was going to say meaty, but
it is super gluteny.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
Wheaties.
And we don't have anything in Canada that's, well, yeah, there's nothing that's really close. There's nothing that's really close
Yeah,
to
you're s-
Wheaties.
I've always envisioned Wheaties.
Vector comes a little bit closer, but
I don't have any experience with Wheaties, but I always imagine them to be like Dijon shreddies. You know, like shreddies that are just a
oh no,
little
they're
fancier.
actually like they're more like a cornflake,
Oh,
but they're wheat flakes and they're huge. They're huge and they're thick. It's just a different eating experience. The Wheaties are so dense that they don't get as soggy in milk as a lot of cereals do.
sure.
So in a sense, they're kind of similar to Captain Crunch that way, but Captain Crunch is a completely different kind of cereal.
There's no such thing as Captain
It's not a
Crunch.
flake.
It's Captain.
Captain Crunch, yes, I know.
I love what I like about cereals is that they go through like phase changes,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
The first bites are crunchy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get the soggy bits,
Yeah.
which are also really
Yep.
nice, and then you get the cereal flavored milk at the end that you finish off.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Yep.
3 states of cereal, man.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yep.
God, I
Yeah.
want some fucking cereal.
Yeah. Here's this. This might make you laugh. Darlene, my wife, eats cereal daily
Okay.
for breakfast.
Okay.
That's her go-to breakfast. And I honestly don't know if she eats cereal out of habit or whether she really, really likes it more than anything else. I think for her, it's all about the convenience of just being able to just get a bowl of cereal and add milk to it, and boom, you're ready to go.
You've now eaten.
Because she would bring that to work as well. She would actually bring her cereal to work with a 500 ml container of milk in her lunch cooler thingy, and have her cereal while she was waiting for work to start, because she had to get to work early because she would get a ride from me on my way to work. She doesn't eat one cereal.
Oh, she's a mixer.
She's a mixer.
I dig that. No, I've got respect for that.
She mixes Shreddies,
Okay.
Vector,
Okay.
Mini Wheats,
Ooh. Okay.
and multigrain Cheerios.
I respect the game, but I don't like how it's played.
Well, that's her.
Fair enough.
That's her mix, and she loves it.
There is nothing convenient about the assembly of that breakfast.
Oh, and speaking of assembly, my life is consumed with refilling containers with that 4-part mix.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Yep.
So, oh well, okay, fair enough. If she's
Like-
got you mixing it,
Yes.
yeah, it's convenient for sure. Why
Oh
not?
yeah, totally.
Carl, jump.
Oh yeah, I'm trained.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'm a trained monkey. at
I
this point.
require a heavier dose of Shreddies, Carl.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah,
dear.
oh yeah. She supervises the mixing, and if I don't put enough of the right,
Right.
oh yeah, it's like no more. Jesus, woman, I got to make room for the mini. More. Okay.
Are they at
I
least
need to be
frosted
able to put the
mini
lid
wheats?
back on. What?
Are they frosted mini
Yes.
wheats? Wow. Okay. So she lives a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is wild, man.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone that mixed cereal before.
Oh,
I met
really?
her. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Never.
I don't know if there's been a cereal that I've met that I didn't like. I even like those fucking grape nuts fucking things. Remember grape nuts?
I remember
They're
them.
big in the 90s.
Never had them.
Yeah, little tiny things.
I've had Raisin Bran.
Yeah, I dig Raisin Bran.
They
With
were
a lot
good.
of sugar. They're awesome. With
They
the
were
fucking
good.
raisins in there.
Yep.
Woo-wee. They start to rehydrate after a while. Yeah, man. I'm with it.
I always did like Frosted Flakes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Frosted Flakes are good. Now, Puffed Wheat's one I could never get behind.
Oh,
Yeah, there
I
it
have
is.
a very bad history with puffed wheat.
Yeah, because they're gross.
We were so poor. Here we go. Hey.
That I got to
We're right
buy
back to
food.
it. We're right back to it. We were so poor growing up that all my mother could afford was fucking puffed wheat. She'd buy the giant fucking. And I can't even say 20 kilogram bag because it didn't even weigh that much. I think it weighed maybe a kilogram.
Right.
But it was the size of a spare tire. It was this giant bag of awfulness. And she used to make it for us for cereal. And I was just like, oh my God. I'd rather just fucking take a box of styrofoam peanuts and eat that for breakfast.
Yeah,
like,
man.
they were awful.
Yes.
And, eventually people would be like, hey man, what do you think of Sugar Crisp? And I'd go, what is that? Oh, it's the puffed wheat. Stop right there. Yeah, but it's got sugar. I put sugar on it too. And no.
Can't get enough of that Sugar Crisp.
Yes you can. Yeah,
You absolutely can.
Yes, you
Hey, little bear,
absolutely
fuck
can.
yourself.
That's right. I will never have puffed wheat in this house. Sugared or not.
Nope, disgusting.
It is awful.
It's disgusting.
It is gross. Rice Krispies?
Yeah, they're all right.
They're good.
Yeah, they have a place.
Especially as Rice Krispie squares, they're even
Right,
better.
you add marshmallows and vanilla and butter in your...
To anything,
Yeah,
really.
to anything. I can't think of much that those wouldn't be good on. Hot dogs. Okay, yeah, I'll go for that. Fuck it. What's another one that is...
I always got a kick out of, human beings do really bizarre things with their food. Like, who thought up this idea? Hey, marshmallows? Yeah. Hey, I got an idea. Let's take one, put it on the end of a stick and hold it over a fire till it burns to a crisp.
Right?
And then try not to burn your mouth when you eat it.
Yeah,
And they're delicious.
they are. You're
are
absolutely
just,
right.
I'm actually shocked that no one has found a non-fire way to duplicate that experience.
Toasted marshmallows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why is it
Well,
we're
they
only
sorta
having toasted
have.
marshmallows over a fire when someone happens to have a bonfire?
Well,
going?
you can, those Jelly Belly fucking things? Those jelly beans?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they got toasted marshmallow. That tastes like toasted marshmallow.
Okay, yeah, but I'd rather have,
A marshmallow.
the taste of a
Right.
toasted marshmallow
Yeah, man.
in my mouth.
You know what a real interesting trick is? That I was taught this in my 20s by some guy who really liked marijuana. Was that you can make s'mores anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
You just turn the element on your oven.
Right.
And you can make your fucking marshmallows that way.
Right.
So that's all you're doing with your marshmallows. You don't need fire. You're
Right.
just turning on an element like you would be cooking something.
Put them in a pan.
There you go. Or just hold it with a stick. Or fucking coat
With the
hanger.
with the oven door open.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it was the element on top of the stove.
Oh, on top of the stove.
Not the oven, the stove. Yeah,
Oh
whoop,
yeah,
off we go.
that could
Yeah.
that'll be great. Till
just
one
don't-
falls off the stick onto the element,
Oh, yeah.
and then you're trying to scrape this motherfucker off the thing for days.
It was the same element that he did blades off of.
I had to go to
Gross.
Costco this morning,
Uh-huh.
and I was standing. Costco was just about to open, 9 a.m., and I couldn't believe it. There was a lineup of over 100 people waiting to get into the store. And as we were, slowly making our way toward the front door like cattle,
So dystopian.
all I could think of was, imagine if you took a hunter-gatherer that lived tens of thousands of years ago and transplanted them into that lineup.
Right.
And as they walked into the store, they saw all of the stuff that's just people are just throwing into their carts.
Yeah.
And they would just be like going, what?
Yeah. And use a plastic rectangle to take it home.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
This is your life now. Oh.
The things that I
Jesus.
think about while I'm waiting to fill my cart full of stuff that somebody else got for me.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Toasted marshmallows. So yeah, cereal. Vector. Yep, that's my go-to. So, I think that's it for this episode. of Talkbots.
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 See you next time.
What?
Do you know what we're talking about next time?
No, but we got that list that you were.
We do. Got a big list.
No. That episode did not go the way that I thought.
No, me neither.
Like right when I started talking, I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Like it really hit me.